My
start?
name is Ashley Patil, and I am director of a patient liaison team.
My name is Jeanette O'Leary, and I am one of the managers of the patient navigator team / patient liaison team. So today, when somebody needs support during a trial, what they would do is they can either reach out to Scout via email by emailing us, or they can call us directly and actually get on the phone with a real live person, regardless of where they're located. So we've got international numbers that patients, sites, sponsors can call if they need support. We've got local numbers. We've got everything that a patient might need to get connected with a real human and have that support.
Towards the end of one region's day and the beginning of another day, there can be, I think, traditionally a breakdown, and that people are not accessible, or they're on their way out of the office, whatever the case is. And what's so great about Scout is that, yes, we do have people located globally across the world, but we also have people available no matter what time of the day it is. So in Spain, our Spain team is getting ready to log off in an hour or so. But if someone calls to, ask about a reimbursement, or what they're eligible to receive for reimbursements or travel in a trial, we've got other members within the region, as well as, within the United States, that would be able to assist that patient or that site with those inquiries. So we have a really great ability to kind of mitigate and dissolve those traditional barriers that you often see, where you've got set regions and locales and language barriers. With Scout, we often don't see that that's an issue. We have people that are multilingual, speak multiple languages, and then we also have the ability to engage another service if there is not a native speaker for that patient or site.
And to add in there, our team operates essentially on what is the patient's clock, the site's clock, the sponsor's
Mm-hmm.
clock, not necessarily our own. So we're resolving these during the local business hours instead of patients having to wait with other companies the 12 to 24-hour turnaround time for a response because they are out of the time zone of that team. So it's one of the huge benefits of having a global team.
Because we do have such a skilled team, our patient liaison team, regardless of the number of languages they speak, 1 or 5 or 20, we have such a skilled team. And so having the ability to call in and speak to someone that does speak your native language, it automatically, I think, creates a peace of mind for that site or that patient. You automatically feel like you have the same understanding. You understand culturally the perspective that sometimes that can be missed when you're speaking to a non-native speaker. You think you're saying the same thing, but you're not. So having the ability to meet patients where they are, from a language perspective, I think is invaluable. And it automatically creates that solid foundation of trust and comfort, and just knowing that you're going to be taken care of, that there's somebody that understands where you're coming from. And then again, for our patient liaison team that maybe doesn't speak Spanish, French, Italian, Chinese, they're still able to assist. They're still able to drill down to what the root of the issue is, or the root of the question, and still able to either communicate via email, or again engage another translation service that would be able to accommodate that need. But I think having such a skilled team really does automatically set the tone of the conversation for success. And at the end of that phone call, the patient or the site knows that their issues are going to be resolved, or their questions are going to be answered, or they have that peace of mind that they know whatever they called about is okay and it's resolved.
I think additionally, like clear language and knowing that you've got somebody that speaks your native language that you're talking back and forth with, or you're communicating via email to get your issues resolved, it prevents additional mistakes. So
Mm.
when we are able to deliver instructions and travel itineraries in the patient's native language, the comprehension is a lot better. So it improves all of those things while reducing any issues that might occur. Being able to provide such a comprehensive background with different languages spoken, it eliminates those barriers to having issues that other companies might experience or patients have experienced on other trials that aren't with Scout. It makes the patient experience smooth. We build that connection, we build that trust with the patient, with the site, with the sponsor directly. And we give them that human interaction that really makes them trust us and know that their issues are going to be resolved. So when support feels more human, it just makes everything smoother.
Sites and patients approach the trial differently, right? They've got different goals to achieve. So the site is very process focused, um, focused on boxes they have to check, and so and often clinical trials are conducted in English, or that's the standard. And so the sites do experience participation with Scout a little bit differently. With our patients, being able to meet them where they are, um, especially from the language piece, they it is a different experience. They do automatically have that feeling of I'm understood, I'm being heard, I can easily communicate. And so any of these perceived barriers, or frustration, it's automatically dissolved. And they don't necessarily have like a process focus, right? They just want to get better. They want to be reassured that they will get reimbursements, or they will get those participation funds, that their travel is taken care of, that they're being supported throughout the trial. And so having that language piece or the cultural piece just adds that extra layer to make it simple, and give them that extra touch and that peace of mind, that every patient wants to feel and deserves, as they go through that clinical trial journey.
And I think the quick reference would kind of be more so patients feel supported instead of processed. Like they're not a
Yeah,
process to us. We
absolutely.
want to support them in every way that we can to reduce the site burden. So being able to differentiate between language barriers is huge to them. And again, it makes them feel supported, it makes them feel human.
Having staff, that is regional and local, it they just know how the system works because they've often used it, right? So they understand in France how the taxi system is, that we often, we have the French manual reimbursement system. We know the barriers that the sites are, often coming up against, or the patients, and so we know how to work within that system because we're there. In Spain, we have, the Spanish phone taxi system where patients are accustomed to calling us and booking their own travel. And so we know that because we have boots on the ground, and we're able to speak to that and understand how to operate that system, in the most efficient and patient friendly way. So I think that's a huge benefit, is that it's not just something that we've researched, not someone that we consulted. We actually have people in those areas that have lived it, experience it, and get real-time feedback.
I think as well, local knowledge, having global patient liaison team that does know the local knowledge, it really helps the workflow in general. So like Ashley was saying, they're going to understand the taxi system where we're not making global assumptions that, okay, because it's this way in the United States, it works this way in France as well. So having the cultural awareness is very important. It leads to higher engagement, fewer missed trips. It leads to a better understanding with the patient. It leads to building trust with that patient or site as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Having patient liaisons that know the local language, that are answering calls and emails in that local language, makes patients feel like they don't have to consistently repeat themselves or explain
Mhm.
the same thing over and over again, where we might see that happen in other companies who don't have people that are regionally located and really understand those languages. And it can be a frustrating experience for people. I know when I call a support team for any of my issues, not necessarily travel related, but I expect to speak to somebody that understands the regional issues that can really help me. So I think that's something that Scout really does great. We've got, like Ashley said, boots on the ground kind of all over to really hone those relationships and understand regionally what the challenges are and how to avoid them.
We were working to implement a new functionality, and of course, to ensure that we're a real company and things are verified, I have to go through this verification process. And we just kept hitting these roadblocks. We weren't getting the verification code. We were trying different methods. We weren't even exactly sure why that verification code wasn't being sent or received. And we didn't have anybody to contact, not a real person. We had to, internet search, why isn't this working? And then a few possible issues popped up. We're like, okay, that maybe that's why. But we were not able to actually speak to someone to get a real answer and helpful guidance as to what our next step should be. Where do we have to pivot? What do we have to do differently? We didn't have that. And so I think that's really where Scout shines, is that you can speak to a real person and get that real guidance about what next steps, and here's real information for you that we can provide to you and help guide you for future instances. And that really is a difference maker when you get to speak to someone, or even email, like email in real time. Just either one, just being able to have those issues resolved, and again, just having that peace of mind that you were heard, you were understood, and then here's a solution, a pathway for resolution. So that's a big, I think, a big difference maker with Scout, is that we want to be there to support. We want to be there to resolve any issues. We want to answer your questions, and we want to make it smooth and easy.